We come to our first panel session now, which is on health and well-being. As an area, it's clearly been such a strong area for entrepreneurs in recent years, all the more so with the pandemic fostering attention on physical and mental health. Please welcome Adrian Percival, Flourish Zone, Ronan Finnegan, Space Bands, and Dr. Jacqueline Seckley, Health Hubble, to our first panel session on health and well-being. And there they all are. I'll hand you over to Kalpna. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. Really nice to meet you. So what I'm going to start with, as you are all entrepreneurs, I'm going to ask you to give us a 1 minute pitch about what you do and why do you do it. And Greg's going to keep us all to time. So first of all, let's start with Adrienne. Can you hear us, Adrienne? What do you do and why do you do it?
Sounds to me as though
Adrian's trying to join.
Can you put your hand up if you can hear us? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so Kalpna, your question is?
So question is, 1 minute, what do you do and why do you do it, Adrian?
Okay, well, life and work, I think, can feel like a roller coaster. We all face continuous problems that threaten our well-being, our resilience and performance, and we don't learn how to deal with those problems at school, university or most business schools. And at the same time, there are at least 20 million experts in the world with solutions to our problems. But before now, there hasn't been an easy way of connecting the two. So Flourish Zone is changing that. We've built a smart AI platform that gives you hyper-personalised development, giving you the right expertise at the right time in a way that suits your busy life so you can make the most of the roller coaster.
Thank you so much. Great, well done as well. Gold star. Ronan, can you do that in 1 minute?
Sure. I'm one of the co-founders of Space Bands. We started off making social distancing technology that would beep an alert when you came too close to someone and store contact tracing data. The brand, however, is currently pivoting to move into a more general health and safety workplace wearable space. Our new device will analyze a range of safety elements and deliver data so that employers can make effective decisions about how to keep their employees safe.
Fantastic. So a technical view of health and well-being. That's fantastic. And last but by no means least, Jacqueline? We can't hear you. Are you on that terrible... I don't want to say that sentence. You know what sentence I was going to say.
Absolutely, absolutely. I should be good at this by now. So with Health Hubble, we're helping people navigate that. The breadth and health wellness, finding podiatry, physiotherapy or counselling, and now the new government-approved coronavirus testing, making it much easier to find a provider that you need, either nationally or within your local area. This also means that we're helping businesses to reach out to a new client base as well. So bringing everything together in one place.
Really interesting, thank you. And I think the question I want to ask, so pre-pandemic, when I went to organisations, they would do this thing which was like, we're having a health and well-being week. And that was it, in their 52 weeks of the year. So, but you're going into this, you're going in as entrepreneurs, you think there's a business to be made here. So are you saying that actually this is a growth sector? Are you saying that actually this is 52 weeks of the year? Tell me what you think about it. How are you going to grow this if that's what it is? Or are we going to go back to that one week a year? And Ronan, what do you think about that? Because you're talking about technology as well.
Sure, 100%. I mean, COVID has changed the ecosystem in the way that we work a huge amount. The world won't return back to normality as we know it. People care more about their health and their personal life than they did beforehand. The divide between work and personal has been broken down, given that so many people are working at home. And as we start to return to the offices, people will have a more holistic approach to the way that they live their life and the way that they work.
And what will what you do, you know, tracing and so on, what will that do to actually, where do you think the scope is for the growth of that? Because it isn't just about, I'm not going back to the office now, I'm working from home. And actually, I might go for a walk every day because for my mental well-being. What is it that your area that you think there's a growth and there's a real need for?
Sure. So Space Band's focus is mainly on the safety elements of business as opposed to health directly. But obviously, they tie into each other very well. Safety, as we see it, is currently managed by one department, the health and safety department, potentially the HR department if you want to stretch it to two. We believe that health and safety should be something that people care about on a personal level, so everyone should have the ability to perform safety checks in their own workplace so that they can be sure they're in a safe environment at all times with minimal effort, and that's why people would use our technology.
That's great. And so is that the same in what you do, Jacqueline? Do you find, because you're not talking about technology, you're talking about actually how people feel and how they are treated, and so the whole of their sort of human health and well-being?
So I think there have been changes coming forward in terms of how people reach out to health and wellness services, and how people are willing to kind of make more decisions for themselves and explore other options out with the fantastic NHS system that we have. Those trends have been happening year on year, but last year things have completely accelerated, and so people are very much more health focused, and also willing to explore other options, because it has been really challenging for people to get access to the care that they've needed. The classic example was dental services. There's news in the last month about how difficult it is to access NHS dentists. So people are needing to, but we're already, willing to kind of seek other options for themselves, because people are more in tune with how important health and wellness is.
How do you sell that to an organisation, Jacqueline? How do you say, because how is that not a personal responsibility? How do you say actually organisations need this?
So I think that in order to support your and think about people's health and well-being, you need to support them, and so it is really important that businesses and employers really focus on how well they can support people, because you get a more effective, a happier ecosystem, and happier employees. So that's better for the business.
And do you think that I'm going to ask Adrian? Do you think post-pandemic, do you think happier, healthier employees is something that organisations are looking for?
Well, I think definitely. But the thing I'd like to say is that well-being and performance are largely driven by the same things. So we all it's a bit of a meaningless term to say I want to improve my well-being, because it's driven by hundreds of factors, like how well you sleep, but also things like how strong a sense of purpose you have, which is integrally linked to the organisation, how much you're achieving in life, how well you manage, how confident you feel, that sort of thing. So what we can say is that the factors that help people feel happier and healthier at work are actually the same things that drive the bottom line, and we can sort of prove it to organisations. And then what we can also do is give everybody that personalised prescription for what helps them to feel better and do better individually, and we know how that's linking into organisational performance. So there's just a sort of self-evident win-win when you go to the science of this. But I think it's really necessary to move the debate on from let's make everyone feel a bit happier, because it's too fluffy for organisations to get their heads around as a purchasing decision. Whereas if you link it more strongly to profit and performance, I think you're onto a stronger discussion.
And so is it a tangible thing? Is it something that you can bring tangibly to an organisation and say?
Yeah, definitely.
How do you show it on the bottom line?
Yeah, well, if you look at things like the research, one of the strongest factors that drives work achievement is actually positive emotion. If you link everything together, so you absolutely can create the connection, and then you can show how. In research, how positive emotion has, for example, contributed to things like increased customer retention, higher profits, higher talent retention, all sorts of hard-nosed figures, I suppose, that businesses would be reporting.
That's really interesting. And we're talking about post-pandemic. So Greg mentioned this sort of brush with mortality. We've been through a lot, some of us have lost people, and this sort of are we going to make it, this survival question that we've had. Is it, because of that, is the health and wellbeing sector, is it really, exploding? do you find that there's a lot of work in there, and also for me it feels like if that is the case, it must be highly competitive. So how do you function in that bigger explosion and then that competition? So Ronan, you're using technology. I mean, that is also an area which is growing exponentially. So how do you find your space in it and remain competitive and remain and grow?
So I don't fully understand the question. What do you mean by does the technology grow?
So I'm saying that because health and well-being, because of what we've had happen with the pandemic, that it is a sector, it's a growing it's where a lot of businesses will be interested, a lot of entrepreneurs will be coming to be part of it and to sell things. You're coming at it from a tech angle, which is also an area where it's highly competitive. So how do you remain in that sort of competitive environment? How are you going to grow and being able to sort of, carve out what you're doing?
Sure. So yeah, I mean, the attitude to health and safety of late has changed completely. Health and safety used to be a reactive action that you would take. You'd look at something, wait for something to go wrong, and then fix it. Now businesses are preparing in a proactive approach to everything health and safety, or be that for their COVID procedures or their safety checks. The same rule applies. Businesses want to be prepared for the worst because we've seen the worst in recent times. And as a result, the whole health and safety space is changing a huge amount at this time.
That's right. Thank you, Ronan. So what do you think in the area that you're in, what are the barriers to growth apart from competition? What other barriers are you facing? Barriers from just being in that sector? What other barriers do you think there might be? Let me ask you, Jacqueline.
And so I guess the main barriers for us are those for our clinics, so the clinics that are registered, listed with us. Some of them are in an uncertain space at the moment, so there is a huge pent-up interest in health and well-being at the moment, as we've already discussed. But actually, with some of the services they're providing, there are definite limitations to practice because of social distancing measures. So, and it's a question of planning. How well can they plan ahead? Can they get back to their normal level of function? And I guess that level of uncertainty is creating some barriers at present for those clinics. And so that will change over time, because we know that the government and our plan for how we're going to tackle coronavirus is changing.
I think
vaccinations, and so in the coming months and years, it will be better.
I think we are losing a little bit of you, Jacqueline, but we'll try and capture that. We'll try and see if there's just see if we can reconnect properly to you a bit better. So I'll just ask that question of Adrian. Adrian, what do you think are the barriers to growth?
Well, I think that for us, the major barrier that we're facing at the moment is how we get our next round of funding. So I've got a really practical issue there. In terms of dealing with the organisations, I think one of the things that we're finding is organisations have been buckling down because they're conscious that their people are very, very tired and stressed by the pandemic, and adding in something that's new and innovative is potentially something that they want to boot out until they feel that they've got more stability back. So it's quite an ironic place of this strong need, but also they're trying to reduce the pressure on people. So we're trying to get around that, because what we're doing is we're basically enabling coaches to digitise the sorts of expertise that they have, and then employees to be able to experience that as if it's a bit of a coaching session on their app. And so we're testing something which is quite very innovative in the market.
Adrienne, if I could interpose, you said there one of your barriers is the next round of funding. Okay, your pitch. What are you looking for? From whom are you looking for it from?
Oh, thank you so much.
Come on,
right,
go.
Okay. We're raising 650k in potentially more than one tranche, which enables us to scale the business, get a CTO, a CRO, and continue to develop our ambitious AI roadmap. I'm looking for angel investors who are passionate about productivity, well-being, resilience, and how we can help millions of people with tech, or VC funds that are at seed stage.
Fantastic. I'm sure there's somebody there out here listening.
Yeah, the truth is out there.
Yeah, truth is out. And a final question. So, I mean, it is a fantastic sector. It's something that, you know, it's on everybody's mind, whether you're an organisation or an individual. So, and I'm sure there's entrepreneurs sitting here today saying, I'd really like to get into this. And I'd really like to be an entrepreneur in health and well-being. What piece of advice would you give? Sort of, if each of you could just give me 30 seconds on that, that would be really helpful. So shall I start with, we'll try Jacqueline again, see if we're connected properly. Jacqueline?
So my advice would be to do something that you're really passionate about. I think when you're an entrepreneur, you're going to spend an awful lot of time working, getting your company up and running. And so it has to be something that you're passionate about, but you also need to make sure you've done your market research, you've got your technology well developed, and you know who to reach out to. And started, and good luck.
That sounds great. Thank you. Really good. Ronan, what do you think? Market research?
Sure, and I think the most important thing is to speak to the people who face the problem that your product solves. As with any business, it's always problem-based as opposed to features. Our second product we've built out by speaking to 1,000 of our pre-existing customers to create features that would naturally benefit each and every one of those. So I think, yeah, my biggest piece of advice would be to speak to people who are actually using the end product.
To people who are using the end product. That's fantastic. And Adrian, what do you think? A piece of advice, please, for budding entrepreneurs.
Work out what differentiates you, and have and really get people to push you on it so that you can really nail what's different, because as you say, markets are crowded, and you continuously need to understand why you can add value in the space.
Why and how you add value in this space. Really good top tips from you. Thank you so much. So before we finish, because we are finishing now.
I've got one more. You've got one more?
Greg's got one more. I had one more. So you go first.
I'll go first and then you close. Yeah. Okay. I hope it's not the same question that you've got. But it's this question to you each. What's your midterm thinking? Is it build, then sell? Or is this it and you just build up forevermore? Reveal your destiny right now. Don't laugh. Tell us. Don't be coy. Ronan, you're a man who's got a very clear business plan. You set it out at a previous Bath Life Business Club we had. Tell us what you're intending to do, you would wish to do with your business.
Sure. So Spacebands has had a pretty huge year one. We've done over £450,000 in revenue with a team of just two of us. We're currently going through our first seed funding round of a 600k raise, which will be launching on Crowdcube in about 2 weeks' time. From there, we're looking to grow eventually, and on that, there's no direct exit at the moment because there's a few routes for us, whether that be a takeover from another brand using our product part of their holistic ecosystem. We've already scoped out a couple of people set for that, or whether or not we just go for a B2C product that just grows bigger and bigger and bigger on an SAS model, and we go from there. There's lots of scope for work. The traction we've got in the first year sort of means that we have a little bit of legwork to play with, because we've got such good traction and such a good customer base.
And by asking that question, we have overrun. So very briefly from Jacqueline and Adrian, please.
So our plan is definitely to think about the kind of long-term sell. I'm not sure that a mid-term sell. I think we're still really enjoying our growth, and we've got a lot of development, and there are so many areas that we haven't yet launched that we plan to. When we have launched all aspects of our platform, then willing. So it's a long-term plan, yes.
So for me, Bath has been associated with flourishing since the time of the Romans, where they dug their first bath. I would absolutely love Flourish Zone to grow in Bath and help people flourish globally as a long-term proposition.
And I think that's it. All I was going to say, hands up those who really love what they're doing. So I was expecting you to come up with your hands, yeah. Thank you, that's really fantastic. And keep doing what you're doing. And thanks for those top tips. Maybe we could put those together and send them out with everything that goes out from today.
We certainly will. Good luck to you all as well. And perhaps you'll return for EntreConf next year, because we will be back in 2022 to tell us how you've been developing. Thanks to Adrian Percival, Flourish Zone, Ronan Finnegan, Space Bands, and Dr. Jacqueline Seckley, Health Hubble. All contacts, all details will be on our social feed, but also on the website, entreconf.com. Be to pass their doors if you're interested in partnering or talking to them.